Yes, I have my chocolate and coffee, so I'm happy.
Let's see that one. And we're up to number 9. What section is this thing, Jim? Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, can I just share something quickly?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In the weekend, Kylie and I went over to the largest Western Sherpa, Sherpa, no,
Oh,
big
yeah,
Buddhist temple.
yeah.
Um, it was absolutely amazing.
Oh,
If you are ever
Super.
in Victoria, Australia, you've got to go and see it. It is absolutely fantastic. And I picked up one of those scroll thingies.
hmm.
And all I did was I put my hand in there and I picked one out. And do you mind if I read it? It's very quick. It's awareness. To be aware of a single shortcoming within oneself is more useful than to be aware of 1,000 in somebody else. Rather than speaking badly about people and in ways that will produce friction and unrest in their lives, we should practice a purer perception of them. And when we speak of others, speak of their good qualities. If you find yourself slandering anybody, first imagine that your mouth is filled with excrement. It will break you of the habit quickly enough. And that was the Dalai Lama.
I like it.
I love that,
Isn't it great?
Mm.
especially the last bit.
Yeah,
Whenever
I
you start to
know.
ill someone,
Yes, I've had to think of excrement in my mouth a few times. So that's why I'm having chocolate.
Ah.
what a lovely before dinner visualization.
Apologies, but thanks for letting me share that.
No, 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 that was awesome. That
Yeah,
was really awesome.
yeah. So we're on to number 9, and this is the ego and false autonomy is the section. So who wants to read that?
I'll go for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Myths and magic are closely associated. Since myths are usually related to ego origins and magic to the powers the ego ascribes to itself, mythological systems generally include some account of the creation and associate this with its particular form of magic. The so-called battle for survival is only the ego's struggle to preserve itself and its interpretation of its own beginning. This beginning is usually associated with physical birth because it is hard to maintain that the ego exists beyond that point in time. The more religiously or ego-oriented may believe that the soul existed before and will continue to exist after a temporary lapse into ego life. Some even believe that the soul would be punished for this lapse. However, salvation does not apply to spirit, which is not in danger and does not need to be salvaged. Awesome. Oh, you guys have something to share that's not about this topic that I just read. But let me share it real quick because it just came into my mind, and my mind's like a sieve because I'm tired, and so I may not remember it later. But I was teaching a class on Thursday, no, on Saturday, and one of my students is Jewish, and he said, I got talking about the atonement and the Course in Miracles, and he said, well, in the Kabbalah, they have another word for atonement. And I said, what's that? And he said, at one ment.
Oh.
And I loved that.
Mm.
So I wanted to share that with you rather than atonement at one ment, because it means, well, it just means something completely different to me, anyways.
Yeah.
It actually states what it is the atonement stands for.
Yes.
And I love that.
Like all the work is done and
right.
you are at oneness.
Yeah, and then it takes it out of that traditional kind of Christianity malaise of misinterpretation and puts it into really almost like a verb.
Yeah.
You know, it's an action. It's at one-ment.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
I thought you guys would like that.
Absolutely.
And it didn't click until I typed atonement, and then it is. You're separated and it's at one-ment. It is the actual word.
Sweet. Does anyone have any questions about this? I thought this was pretty clear, this paragraph.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear.
It is, yes.
I think we get to the end of these sections and it's kind of like, yeah, we got it. It's good. Who wants to read number 10? I'll do it then. Salvation is nothing more than right-mindedness, which is not the one-mindedness of the Holy Spirit, but which must be achieved before one-mindedness is restored. Right-mindedness leads to the next step automatically because right perception is uniformly without attack and therefore wrong-mindedness is obliterated. The ego cannot survive without judgment and is laid aside accordingly. The mind then has only one direction in which it can move. Its direction is always automatic because it cannot be dictated by the thought system which it adheres.
How do we survive then? The really left field or whatever you call it comment. But how do we survive if to be human is to have an ego, and if it can't survive without judgment? And I know that we're all working toward not judging people because, you know, you're going to have excrement fill your mouth otherwise. So I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure how that works. Or am I seeing it from a different...
No.
Or am I not seeing it?
I think you're seeing it correctly. I think it's when we're in a separated mind, it's really hard to see us because we're all striving to survive at some level. Economically, we're striving to survive. You know, eating health-wise, we're all striving to survive. And that is actually part of the ego. But in my perspective, we have to preserve the body. And that is what, you know, the soul rides around in. In my opinion, for me to meet out my karmic destiny, for me to make the contribution I want to make, my ego has to be part of that, aligned to that, or else I'll be at war within myself. So for me, it's always been a really fine line, and thanks for bringing that up, really, Linda, because, well, maybe it's not a fine line. It's a, I don't even think it's a confused line, but it is this place in the middle between the ego and the soul and the spiritual and the secular paths that we're all walking, and how moments in time they like intersect. And sometimes the ego just goes off the rails and judging and condemning everyone. And then other times you reel it in and it becomes a friend. And the only thing that I've been able to come up with yet, and this is just for me, it may not help anybody else, but for me, it's like I have to meditate. If I don't meditate, I fall apart. And I don't mean that in a, like a weak way. It's just, it keeps me on center. I know that I need an ego to do what I have to do, negotiate contracts, negotiate with people, get work done, do all of that. I have to present myself. I have to talk. I have to, do what I do in the world. All that's part of me being able to do the spiritual purpose. So I've told you this to you guys before, and this is the best thing I've been able to make up so far, is that when I get to meditating, I simply say, bring to me the right coaching clients, the right business opportunities, the right organizations, the right people to help me achieve my financial and my spiritual destiny. Because those two are intertwined. For me, they're intertwined. They're not separate. I think it's because my business is helping people. And how can I begin to help the greatest amount of people with what I do? And that's part of the ego. It's part of how I want to live. And then it's also part of the service that I do. It's very intertwined for me. And I think it can be intertwined with anyone's career, how they approach it. And I don't know if I'm way off topic or not, but that's just the best way that I've been able to kind of come to, how do I embrace this thing called Gary and still carry on this spiritual side of my life and have them become more and more merged rather than more separate. And this is just an approach that I've been taking. If I can do all the things I'm doing for a higher purpose, then I feel like the ego and the soul become more aligned. If I can't do it for that, then I start to get lost. And so, that's what I know about it.
So, and thank you for that explanation, because that did actually it did actually bring up another question. So when we think of ego, when I think of ego, I tend to think of the negative. So I'm practicing not allowing my ego to get in the way of whatever it is that I'm doing, or whoever I'm talking to, or how I'm talking. But from what you've just explained, there's two sides to the ego. It's just that with the ego, it needs to be controlled in order to be able to achieve, like as they say here, the ego cannot survive without judgment, but that can be done in a positive way as well. It doesn't have to be negative.
It could be discernment, it could be. I mean, I think the bottom line for me is how I define the negative impact of ego is if I go into fear, fear of scarcity, fear of the political system that's, happening in the United States right now, fear of, living in a country that I won't even recognize in 5 years. Those are all things that I can get myself worked up about. And that for me is where the ego needs to be, or the perception and the emotions need to be reeled in, because that is a glaring example of that I believe I'm separate from God. If I have fear, I'm in separation. If I have fear, I believe that my survival is based upon me and my wit and my resilience, rather than I'm in the slipstream being held by this beneficent force that only has my evolution and my good in mind. I lose my peace in that level of fear. I can become thought possessed if I allow myself. And that completely curtails my sense of my connection to God and my connection to my own spiritual path. And it makes me small, it makes me bitter, and it makes me really judgmental of other people. So I look to myself as far as what is the emotion I'm feeling by the thoughts I'm thinking? And if I start going down that scarcity, fear track, I know that I'm full blown, like misaligned to everything at that point. And I have to bring myself back. And that's how I've been able to kind of navigate this. But, I'm getting ready to launch YouTube ads and put out all this stuff on Evergreen webinars that thousands of people are going to see, which scares the holy shit out of me. But I'm going to do it anyways. And I think I have to be like on it. I was in a sales training all day today. I have to have myself capable of being able to do this to make it a success. But underneath it, what's driving it is my desire to do good in the world. And it truly is. It's not even the money. It's my desire to alleviate as much suffering as I can. So then I feel like, well, my ego's right in alignment with my soul and my purpose. Yay for me. But if I go down the other road of, I'm going to get sued, or someone's going to try to take me down, or blah, 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 whatever the other thoughts are, I'm lost.
Yeah.
I mean, can you relate to that in your own life, darling?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why it's sort of a realization for me, and my only way to describe it is that when you know that you're on the right path and you're trying to do the right thing by yourself and by others, that it's about controlling your ego to assist you with that push forward, rather than allowing the other side of that ego to feel that fear and bring you down and judge others and all that sort of stuff. So that's how I'm seeing it from the explanation, and maybe I'm being a little bit too I don't even know the word. Yeah, you've explained it very, very well. I just can't explain what I'm thinking very well.
Okay. Well, one thing that I've really learned is that if I judge others, I will have more fear.
Yeah.
And if I speak ill of others, I will have fear of attack as well. Like, we're dealing with a scenario here where we brought two people into our lives like we've never done before. Like, we brought them in close, and we shared like really deep things and all of that. We find out later that they have talked ill about us to other people. Other people have judgment. And Robert looks at me and he goes, "This is why we don't have gay men friends." Because they're like teenage girls that are just mean girls in high school. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. And then I go back and forth in my head. And, I feel betrayed. I feel this. I feel that. And I'm like, I don't have to feel any of that. It's just like, it doesn't ultimately matter. So someone's like off their game and someone hasn't grown to that level of expertise. I just keep a more tight lip around them now, and I don't give them any information to judge on, but they still find things. But it kind of, none of it matters when we actually think about it.
And one lesson that I've learned too is that what other people say about us is none of our business.
Oh no, absolutely not. It's all a projection and a transference of their own relationship to themselves. So it none of it matters. And I think, quite frankly, if we grow out of that separated state, especially when we're confronted with something that we could really judge and really condemn and get all upset about and blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's just such petty nonsense. But let's just say that we fall into that trap. We can stay there for a long time operating at that level. But if you just go, none of it matters. It's just absolute nonsense and not playing. Just straight out of the gate, just not going to play, not going to judge, not going to condemn, not going to give over information, but just not going to play. And I feel peace. Robert got a little thought possessed, but I've been feeling peace about it. So it's all good. And that is where I think, the ego, this is where I think the Course in Miracles in action is. We get faced by these life circumstances. And when we know what we're being taught, how do we make that come to life in those circumstances where it's tempting to act otherwise? And that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where the Course in Miracles kind of shows up and goes, oh, no. You know too much to respond any differently than at one moment. And I think that's the test for all of us as we study the Course. As far as I'm gonna use a bad word here, let the shit fly. And then let's just stand in our present moment, judgeless, accepting, and without any excrement in our mouths. Thank you for that visual, Lady Linda. I will stay with me forever. Never did I think I would thank someone who would give me the visual of eating poo. But you have, and it works.
I'm hearing you.
No, I'm kind of reminded of I think I think we have to give ourselves a leg up in the world, in our own lives, by short-circuiting the angry, the judgmental. And the best and only way to do that is by, let's say, a mantra or a quick, I'm in search of love. I am love. I always want to love. And if we can interject to, verbally or into our thinking, like when someone cuts us off, say when we're driving, and I'm finding as soon as I start to get tense, I go, ha ha ha, no, you're in love. Remember the love. And then I go, in your merry way, and it just goes away, poof. So I guess it's like outsmarting the ego, and just knowing I only want to be in love with myself and others, and in my world, everything I look at, and it's a practice thing. So
yeah, I was gonna say, Jane, that the mind doesn't exist in a void. It has to be filled with something. So when we have the negative running, we have to fill it with something else. This is why having a positive, either a declaration statement or what we thought we'd do last class is get 5 names of God and just repeat those. Like, this is what I'm choosing, and turn the mind to actually filling the mind with the names of God. Those are the pattern interruptions that we have to learn to do frequently, because if we don't, the mind resorts to its most conditioned neurological patterning. So we have to build new neural pathways of habit. Like sometimes I'll just be, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'm doing my mantras in my sleep. Or I'm just driving down the road and I'm doing my mantras, or at the gym or walking the track, I'll be doing my mantras and I don't even know I'm doing it. And then, oh, okay, I'm calling out the names of God. I get it. I'm ingraining it in myself. So when we do this, I think that is all about, you're right, a practice of turning the mind from worshiping at that temple to worshiping at this temple. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes more and more hardwired and part of our character. I personally don't think that there's any more important practice to develop than a practice of loving the divine while we still believe we're separate and it doesn't exist,
Yeah.
or that we're alone. To choose to bring that into our consciousness and claim it. So for those of us who are trying to do that, I think it's one of the most courageous things we can do here.
Agreed.
Sometimes I feel like I'm in the land of Barbie, you know, in some sort of pink plastic blonde, overly obsessed with your looks kind of world. And yeah, it's pretty awesome when you step out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Linda, that was a brilliant question, and that was a really enlightening conversation. So thank you.
It was a really great conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Linda.
And my little takeaway from that is the ego is actually a tool, and it's also an indicator. So it's a tool for us to enlist in our purpose, and it's also an indicator when we're going off track.
Yes.
Well said, Dee. That was what I was trying to say, but you said it so clear.
In summary, but you know, if I just say that, people just go, man. But because of the way that you've been, you know, created the imagery for us all, it sinks in, and we take it away and we can apply it.
Yeah, that's really good, Linda. Thank you. Are you guys recognizing that we're getting clear? I feel like the group as a whole is getting clearer.
Definitely.
Would you guys agree with that?
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's what I keep feeling.
And you know, the really awesome thing for myself is that I have been able to attend over the last few weeks, but in the times when I haven't been able to attend, you're still there, if that makes sense. So when you're meeting, I still feel that. So I still, and even though I haven't been able to tune in because of whatever, when I do come back in, I can almost, well, I don't know what it is that you were about before. Although now that I have the book, I can actually go back and have a look. But it's just that it's a very clear understanding that you guys are still there when you're meeting, and if I'm not there. So that for me is really cool. I love that.
I'm having this intuition, you guys, that because I know in the next 5 years, I'm going to be speaking and having my voice out there a lot on the internet. And I know that's going to happen. And I have a sense that what we're doing is a foundation of some new iteration of what I'm going to present as far as trainings and all that and process work. I don't know how that's going to take form, but it's going to be based in what we're learning here and what we're integrating here in these classes on Tuesday night. It's good. My sense is that we have to help people, you know, decode the past, shatter the illusion, and then build on a foundation of devotion, of love, of humanity, of at-one-ment, and simply build this structure of a simple practice for people to love God and love each other in a way that is pure and clean and minus the complexity of ritual and nonsense from most world religions. I think people are starving for a simplistic way to be in love with themselves, with creation, with God, and to see the best about every single soul. Because the world is going down a very dark hole, and there's some of us that just refuse to go there. So somehow I know myself, others, you guys will be out there doing what we do, But this course that we do pretty, committedly, I think is a foundation for this new iteration that needs to get out there. And we'll all do it in our own way, however we do it. I'm going to do it in my way. You guys will do it in your way. But do you think that that's true for you guys?
Absolutely. What is the point in actually keeping it all to yourself? Like
I know.
What we're doing as a group is learning on a different level, understanding on a different level, so that we can share that with people around us. It was like Jane was saying about, someone tries to cut you off in a vehicle. Well, the first thing that you want to do is shout all sorts of obscenities, but where's that going to get you? It's just going to make you angry, you mad. So to just do what we're doing and allow that to go out to everybody else around us, that's the start of that wave, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
It's got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any thoughts?
I love the phrase you just used, shatter the illusion. Like, that's it. That is so it. It reminds me of the old nursery rhyme, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And it's like, yeah, it is. And we need to shatter the illusions of separateness. And I think that the saying, we often teach what it is that we want to learn, right? Or the phrase, the teacher will appear when the student is ready. And as you say, people are starving for. And so I am in preparation for tomorrow, in 10 minutes, in 3 weeks, and constantly. I feel like we're feathering our nests, metaphysically, spiritually, speaking, and we're preparing, so we can help to cultivate a better soulful experience with others, spirit to spirit instead of ego to ego, and turn people on to it so they can feel some peace, or lots of it, for that matter, right?
Well, one of the things that it's so weird how God works, but I'm going to be launching this trauma work over the internet and advertising it as, the ability to heal trauma very, very rapidly. And I have some ideas of how I'm going to do it. And then I just think, it is very timely that I'm launching that, because there are so many people all over the world that are now, and will become even more so, more critically traumatized by things that are occurring in their lives and in the world around them. I have Jewish friends that are terrified right now of the how do you pronounce that word?
Anti-Semitic.
Thank you. The anti-Semitic movements that are happening across the world. They're terrified. Yeah. And I think, to launch that now, but see, what else has to happen is this buildup of a non-denominational spiritual practice that focuses on the unity of humanity and the unity of God being made manifest to all things, regardless of the iterations of the rituals of religion. There's one thing that's at the core, the golden thread that runs through all of it, is this one concept of at-one-ment. And I know that I'm supposed to get out there and talk about it. I think everyone on this call is supposed to get out there and talk about it. But the thing I just want to share with you guys, does it feel like this? I don't know. I started feeling like this last week, that our little group is something way more purposeful than what getting together with friends on a Tuesday night is. It feels like we're preparing something for something that's coming. It just felt like that to me.
It is. It's a mission, and we're missionaries.
Yeah, it's trippy. I don't know, V, what do you think? You're being very quiet back there.
I'm listening. It does. This is such an important thing that we do, just for ourselves, but what we're doing for ourselves helps the people around us as well. Because as we learn and implement this, and we're becoming more in tune with who we're supposed to be, it's helping other people realize that they can do that too. Whether they come to this or not, it doesn't even matter. It's like the feeling that Linda gets when she can't make the call, but she feels it. That's exactly what we're doing.
Joe with the heart.
Create change, and it doesn't need to be on the conscious level. It doesn't need to be about this language.
Yeah.
And Joey's sending us sparkly hearts, so we love that.
I want to see your balloons again, Gary.
Yeah, let me see if I can do it.
Oh, not today.
Nothing's happening. I ran out of my balloons.
You must have fixed it.
Oh, I don't want it fixed. I love that. I had fireworks in a big Zoom call. It was great.
I want it too, but I can't find it on here.
Oh boy.
Just going back to that too, is that, has anybody noticed that when something really big happens, the world seems to unite? So let me use the example of 9/11, and I apologize if that's a very sensitive thing for some people. But I noticed as soon as 9/11 happened, that people were, when I'd go out on my lunchtime walks, that instead of people looking at the ground, they'd actually look you in the eye and say hello as they pass by. And that lasted for around about 3 months, because that's normally the time frame, isn't it? And then people would go back to, don't want to look at you anymore and don't want to say hello. And so has anybody else noticed that seems to be, when something really big happens, that the world seems to unite in some way? Everybody's soul seems to be attached in some way, until they start going back to their normal way of doing things.
I think we become aware of it. It's always the case, but we just become aware of it because we realize our immortality, and things can change in an instant.
Yeah.
This is how connected we are, though. I noticed, was it last week? I was really teary and I was really fragile, and it was over the space of a couple of days, and it and I thought it could have been a few different things, but they didn't add up to that kind of feeling that I was having. And then I got hold of a friend of mine, the friend who's adopted the dog that I had, who now has that dog. And she had this huge trauma, and they had to put down one of their dogs. And it's like, so that's what I was feeling.
Yeah.
It wasn't even mine. And I just wonder how often we're doing this. We're taking ownership of some feeling that something we're feeling, and it's not even ours.
Yep.
And then we try to attach it to something, but it's bigger than our little world. Okay? We are so connected that we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And I think as we because I'm probably the oldest one on the call, which is so creepy for me to say, but it is infinitely creepy. But I think that it's so important to have this kind of connection. I mean, because I don't hang out with anyone. Robert and I are like, we see a person once, maybe every 2 to 3 weeks. And other than that, it's just each other. And we look at each other and go, what's going to happen to the one that's left? You know,
Oh no.
when one of us leaves, like, what's going to happen? We have no friends, we have no family, we just have each other. And I kept thinking, well, you know, if I go before he goes, it'll be far more tragic. If he goes before I go, I'll be able to adjust because I have people that I connect with and I engage with and I'm friends with, albeit all over Zoom, but at least we're interacting and we have love for one another and all of that. And I just kept thinking, wow, what a strange like life I've led. And then I think, but it's probably just so bloody perfect because this just leads me inside. If no one's out here, I just go inside, which is ultimately at the end of the day what we all have to do. And I'm thinking, maybe it's just like the perfect thing. So I just think that, you know, whatever shows up for us and however it unravels itself, this is not my kingdom. My kingdom is not of this world. It is of that world. And it is at one-ment. And it's at one-ment there and it's at one-ment here. And when I can fully embrace that, I wake up. So personally, I know I'm destined to suffer that. I absolutely know because it's the thing I'm most terrified of. So I know I'm going to have to walk through that. But I think that whatever that will ever be, I will be in, it'll be the perfect thing for me spiritually. My ego will hate it. But for me spiritually, it'll be the most perfect thing.
And you know why it'll be the most perfect thing is because you love your God and your
I
God
do.
loves you and is going to take care of you. You never walk alone.
And you know what? My life has been a testament to that, absolute testament to that. How many of you can say that my life's been a testament to coincidences that have led me along my journey? And ultimately, at the end of the day, I've never really had to be afraid. Like it all has worked out no matter what.
Yeah.
And that, my friends, is the beauty of knowing that there is a force that we cannot see, we can feel, that is literally carrying us down the road to our destiny.
Yeah.
And our job is to just be surrendered unto it, even when our ego's kicking and screaming. And that is, if we're going to go full circle, that's a whole nother aspect of the ego, because the ego, especially at that moment as we age, becomes afraid. Oh, I'm going to be alone. I'm not going to be taken care of, blah, 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 blah. You know, what if I get sick? Da, da, da. All that stuff is something that really, and I'm telling myself this right now, because that is one of the many forces of the apocalypse for me, is that I'm going to die alone. And then I think, oh no, that's not even possible. That won't even be possible. Yep. Someone will come, it'll be all be fine. But you know, if we look at our worst fears, it's always about we're not taken care of, we're not cared for, we're alone, blah, 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 blah. How many of you have got that one?
Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you can die in a crowded room and still be alone.
Easily.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that die in hospital beds with greedy family members all around them waiting for the assets to be divvied up. I would feel completely abandoned in a situation like that. Completely abandoned. So, I mean, the bottom line for all of us is this. It's almost like life gives us these opportunities to be afraid to create the breakthrough to it, to finally come to the conclusion of what the Course in Miracles always says, that we are always in the slipstream of the divine, always. And I find that incredibly beautiful and an illusion shattering, to dwell on it that way.
Mm.
And then everything feels like a walk in the park. Boy, this has been the least amount of reading we've done ever. In Course in Miracles
A long time. I would like to get this paragraph done though today, because I think the next section is going to be
Let's do it.
really good.
Who
wants to read this one then?
I will.
Good on you.
Because I haven't spoken enough today, so I might as well read a paragraph. It cannot be emphasized too often that correcting perception is merely a temporary expedient. It is necessary only because misperception is a block to knowledge, while accurate perception is a stepping stone towards it. The whole value of right perception lies in the inevitable realization that all perception is unnecessary. This removes the block entirely. You may ask, how is this possible as long as you appear to be living in this world? That is a reasonable question. You must be careful, however, that you really understand it. Who is the you who are living in this world? Spirit is immortal, and immortality is a constant state. It is as true now as it ever was or ever will be, because it implies no change at all. It is not a continuum, nor is it understood to being compared to an opposite. Knowledge never involves comparisons. That is its main difference from everything else the mind can grasp. Wow.
Well, that just put the bow on everything we just talked about, doesn't it?
Yeah. Definitely.
Wow. So it really then is about accurate perception.
Mm.
I've just come up with my saying for the week.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm loving having the book. It's so great. And for those of you who don't like people writing in books, I'm sorry, but I write in my books because
good for you.
I think it's great. And when I'm dead and gone and my book is still around, people will be able to look at it and go, what the hell was she writing there? Why was that so important?
Who was this woman?
Who was that woman?
And that really doesn't need to. It doesn't need any clarification, really, does it?
No, it does not. Well, this was a cool Course in Miracles group, at least for me tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I think I don't think there's much point going on to the next one. So
no, I think we should just read our statements.
Yeah.
Our word for the night, our word for the week. Who'd like to go?
I will. It's time to follow a simplistic way.
Nice. Who else?
I am immortal, and so are you.
Oh, I like it.
I will be asking myself, is it true? Is it really true? When I'm thinking something or perceiving something, I'll be asking, is this true?
Byron Katie?
Yeah. I have all these Post-its up on my computer with all these statements. I'm putting this one up because I choose to live by this. spirit is immortal and immortality is a constant state.
Mm.
So that will be the thought that I remember.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. That was awesome.
Yes.
It was really
Thank
awesome.
you.
And Joey, we love you intensely, immensely, and profusely.
And immortally.
Yes, we have an immortal love for you. Well, gang, I'm going to exit because I've got at least another hour of work to do before I can go to bed. So thank you guys so much for tonight. It was lovely. It was really lovely.
Thank you so much for the clarifications.
Oh, I just run my mouth. I never have any idea what comes out of it. So
Well, it was
and
good.
V knows that more than anybody. There'll be times I'd run my mouth and go, "Could you repeat that?" And I'm like, I have absolutely no idea what I said.
That's the beauty of recording this.
Yeah,
I know. I literally don't have any idea. So, love you guys, and you guys have a great.
Too. Take
Bye-bye.
care,
everybody.
Bye.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.